Singapore is well known for being the best in something. We have one of the best airports in the world and was ranked as the most livable city in the world by a survey in January this year. But we've just been given a new top spot that we didn't see coming. The most fatigued country in the world. Could this be why 49% of our country's workforce are now saying, I quit in the worst time ever? What's really driving people to throw away their rice bowls in this pandemic? Ladies and gentlemen, the Great Resignation is upon us. What can we do to stop it? Let's find out. Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Mark Wong, and I am your host for Career Banter, an original talk show discussing hot button issues in the workplace and practical strategies to take your career to the next level. Now, we are proud to bring you this second episode, and I would like to personally thank our viewers who are with us for the first episode, where we discussed the use of profanities in the workplace. Is it common? Is it right or wrong? If you missed that episode, there is a link in our description below to do some catch up. Now, if you are new to our show, welcome. If you enjoy our content, go right ahead and share this video with your friends because there's just so much value that they'll be getting from all our invited experts, and you're getting all for free. To make sure that you don't miss out on a single episode, just smash the subscribe button and click on the bell notification so you are notified each time we release a new show. Now, today, we're going to talk about something really critical that's taking right under our noses. And I get the feeling that some organizations in Singapore are still unprepared for it. I'm talking about the Great Resignation, a term that was first invented in 2019 by Texas A&M University professor Anthony Klotz, whose prediction of mass voluntary exodus from the workforce went viral. Since then, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics has revealed that 4 million Americans have quit their jobs in July 2021. Interestingly, employees between 30 and 45 years old have had the greatest increase in resignation rates. And it seems that the tsunami of resignations is likely to have reached Singapore. How do we know that? Now, according to the Microsoft Work Trend Index, over 49% of the Singaporean workforce is considering leaving their employer in 2021. A Michael Page Talent Trends report also found that 56% of those currently under employment are expecting to find a new job this year. And this is despite the economy seeing a 2% contraction in the second quarter as restrictions were tightened. So what does that all mean? It means that there's a high chance that Singaporeans are now throwing their fears of losing a job out of the window and are now voluntarily resigning even in a bad economy. How is that possible? Now, here's another shocking statistic. Again, back to the Microsoft Work Trends survey published in May, found that 39% felt exhausted. To further affirm that, a survey done by a UK bed manufacturer, Sleep Seeker, has ranked Singapore as the most fatigued country in the world, even above the US and Japan. By the way, you can get the statistics which I just shared in the description below this video. So what's behind all of these dissatisfaction and tiredness? To share their insights, I am privileged to bring in our experts. So first and foremost, I would like to call in our resident management consultant, Stephen Lu. Stephen, welcome to our show.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here again. Thank you.
Next up, I'd like to introduce Wantedly Singapore's country manager, Andrew Tan. Andrew, welcome to our show. And last but not least, the very, very lovely Christine Chan, who is a well-respected HR leader from the hospitality industry and recruitment sector. Stephen, Andrew, and Christine,
everyone. Welcome.
We're fortunate to have your presence. Hey. Now, could each of you share a little bit about your background so that our viewers can get to know you better? So perhaps Stephen,
let's have
you might want to go
the
first.
lady to go first. Yeah, ladies.
All right, sure, Christine, ladies first.
Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Christine. I have, like what Mac have mentioned, I have been a HR practitioner for more than 20 years, and previously from hospitality, and also been doing recruitment all my life. So talent acquisition is my forte. Thank you.
Awesome.
Andrew.
Hey, so great, so grateful to be here. Thanks for the invite. A bit about myself. I'm passionate about building ecosystems to help people help others. Mostly in the startup space. That's where I've committed my career path towards. And at Wanterly, I champion our mission to create a world where work drives passion, together with the team here in Singapore, so that companies and talents can match based on shared purpose and values. Very happy to be here once again. Look forward to a great discussion.
Okay, thank you,
We
Andrew.
will. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, hi, this is Stephen Lu. Some of you have seen the first career banter, probably have known me already. For those who don't, my name is Steven Lu again, and I'm the principal consultant and also management consultant with a company called Stevenson Hureca, which I have a privilege to be the founder, co-founder. So our business is primarily focusing now on training. Yeah, we provide WSQ and non-WSQ training for corporate and also for professionals, and we're around for more than 10 years already. Yeah, so glad to be here to participate in this career banter talk. Yeah, on this the Great Resignation. Yeah, over back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, everyone. There's no doubt that we are feeling some effects of the resignation tsunami. And there's just so much talk about it, depending on where you get the information. On LinkedIn, I'm seeing professionals commenting that people working from home, if they no longer have that option, they are likely to develop some sense of resentment and will probably leave their jobs. Now, some are also saying that there are those who are already in a job might just decide to quit the next day without even finding a replacement because they just are not enjoying themselves anymore. It's no longer fun working in what they're doing. There's certainly a lot to unpack. So I'd like to ask each of you, what's your take on the Great Resignation?
Christine, you want to take it first?
Christine?
Sure. Okay, so for
Christine?
the Great Resignation is actually the employee is thinking more than 50% in an organization wanting to leave the organization. So it is something that is very, very scary to the organization. Can you so imagine 50% of the workforce in the company that is going to leave you? Yeah, so this is my take on the Great Resignation.
Wow. Thank you, Christine.
That's
Thank
really
you.
scary.
Andrew?
That's really scary,
Yeah,
Christine.
definitely scary.
I would like to share some views on this, right? I think the term first coined in 2019 by Professor Anthony might have a different origin to what we are facing right now, especially since 2019 was before the pandemic. But it is here. It's in front of us. And coming from the point of view of Wantedly, firstly, I wanted to share that there are a lot of hiring activity that we see, a lot of hiring activity going on that could be possibly linked to this Great Resignation also. For instance, need to backfill, right? If employees are leaving in waves, in chunks, employers need to replace those headcount. I also venture to guess that more employers are poaching, in this current climate because there's some economic recovery, not full recovery yet, but some recovery. That being said, I don't think, even though I agree with Christine that it's very scary, I don't think employers are showing signs of worry just yet. Singapore. This phenomenon, it suggests to me that most organizations here are still traditional. They are reactive when it comes to talent management. If someone leaves, just try to replace. But I would love to hear more from my fellow panelists. But in the modern and progressive view, I think that we should be thinking about attracting the right talents. We should be thinking about keeping the best talents. And as a result, the Great Resignation is scary. It's not good for employers.
Agree.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Stephen?
Okay, before I share my viewpoint, right, just want to add on for Andrew's part of the business, right? You're in a job portal business. In times like this, your business is growing. You're one of the bright spark in the industry.
Last year we suffered a lot. Last year business was non-existent. This year definitely recovering. Thanks, Stephen.
Okay. All right. My view is a bit more philosophical. The perspective is very much, if you some of you knows Mandarin, right? The term crisis is actually called 危机 yeah. 危机 means 危险 危险 机 是机会 That means there's a danger, there's also opportunity. Wow. Right? And the situation is, what we're going through is not different from a lot of economic crises that we have gone through as well. Yeah, it says that at this time of situation, we are seeing a more accentuated situation because of the new normal, where everybody has to work from home. Working from home for 6 months is okay, but we are going into the 18 months, coming to the 2 years period that cause a lot of new ways of working, adjustment and changes in the environment. And obviously, there will be casualties, right? But again, all said, again, based on that two word, right? 危机 crisis, right? There's opportunity, of course there are casualties, but always look on the positive side. And whether you're in employment or whether you are employee, hey, look ahead and then try to identify and see where's the trend, right? And you won't go wrong. Okay, back to you, Mark.
I've always wondered, with all this talk about resignations and people leaving, is there any job sector that is seeing the biggest losses, or is there any industry that's really safe from this exodus of resignations? Anyone would like to share?
Actually, if I can add on,
sure.
all industries are impacted. If you observe from the start where the pandemic started, the hospitality, the travel industry were the first to be impacted.
Yep.
Right, and then comes next is the retail industry.
Right.
Yeah? But as the pandemic prolongs and goes on, you will find that, in fact, it creep into a lot of other areas as well. Yeah. So this is where, like I said, everyone is impacted in some way or another.
Right.
Even if you're in the growth industry, right?
Yep.
There are different set of challenges. Growth industry means what? Especially in the IT sector, e-commerce, right? Logistics. These are the growth industry. But there are also challenges. When the growth is there and when you don't have enough talent, what happens? It becomes an employee's market, right? And people start moving around. Bosses, like 2 weeks ago, when I had the chance to talk to a senior VP and a good friend of mine who's also a GM in this big global Indian, consultancy group. He's in charge for Asia Pacific. I was trying to get in touch with him and say, hey, how's it going? He said, business is good, but also challenges. Staff are leaving, and we have to increase the operation overhead by 20-30% to pay, to increase. Otherwise, these people will leave. All right, so in every aspect of it, you look at it, growth also got challenges. No growth also two challenges. So we are seeing the situation is what it is right now.
Actually, I want to suggest a point.
Sure, Andrew.
Some organizations in the past few months, maybe not really sector specific, but some organizations in the past few months, I feel that they are struggling with turnover because the major hiring spree that was boosted by the SG United programs around 1 year ago, those programs have ended. 6 months traineeship, 9 months traineeship, 1 year attachment. And when the program ends, I'm thinking if you had placed 20 SG United trainees and you are not prepared to offer them the full-time rate, because the grant was so, to be honest, it's very helpful, right? It's very generous, right? So if you're not planning or prepared to offer them the full-time role and salary after the program, then you are now faced with a backfill problem of 20 headcounts based on this example. So I think there are some unique cases where, to your question, biggest losses are, I think these companies will face this turnover problem. And it's not necessarily voluntary resignation also. Yeah.
Christine, do you have any thoughts on what gentlemen have shared?
I mean, where we are from, I'm from hospitality, is environment that is first hit, big time
Yeah.
hit. And then,
Absolutely.
no travelers and nobody dares to stay in or staycation and stuff. And when the moment it started staycation and then, or the using the voucher, the SG voucher, and things start again. So everything is so uncertain. And there's this group of people from overseas that work with us, the workforce that work with us. They see no future here. They went back and end up,
Right.
when the business pick up a little, and then no Singaporean wanted to take on the role. And so that is the biggest challenge. And how are we going to do a job re-engine to make Singaporean do up those jobs that has been always done by our colleague from overseas. So
Right.
these are the mindset change, which is really need to adjust to the new norm. And I also see the skills, the reskilling part is a challenge. You see, we waited for 9 months, we waited for 1 year. Then if any of the employee who thinks that their skills is not up to certain level, do they miss up that 9 months? And this is what Stephen have mentioned, the 机会
Yeah.
to get
Waiting.
themselves upgrade. Yeah, it's a
Mm.
weighty because I'm not sure what am I going for, but
Yeah.
the timing is the same. Is 9 months. Do you learn something? And how are you going to market yourself to be, the 20 backfield that Andrew is mentioning? Did you actually sell yourself well to the organization? Take me, I'm newbies, but I learn the new fresh on oven skills that I can contribute to the organization. So I think there is a lot of, it's not just the employer's issue. It can be the mindset. Are we competent or are we confident enough to take on a new challenge, which is we call it a career change?
Absolutely.
Just to add on, I think I based on what Christine mentioned earlier when you start off the conversation, right? She mentioned about close to 50 of percentage of resignation that could be happening, right? Now, on the average, based on my knowledge, on the average, typically industry will face about 10-15% attrition on the yearly basis, right? Especially those large company. But given that you're going through this period and you're talking about 50%, that's quite a tremendous challenge, I think, even for any management or HR to manage, right? And obviously, I think rather than waiting for this thing to happen, I think there must be some proactive approach to be put in place quickly rather than wait, right?
Yeah.
To really mitigate situation like this from happening, right? Or even lessen the impact, because I'm sure the impact going to be great when you have such a big percentage of staff. Other than hiring, skilling, and so forth, you're going to delay a lot of your growth potential as well.
Yeah.
Right. Now, according to a recent Mercer 2020 Global Talent Trend Survey, right, it showed that only 11% of human resources teams in Singapore provided an extremely good employee experience last year. Do you think that providing a conducive culture and good experience in a company would help to mitigate this exodus of resignations? What are your thoughts on that?
100%. Yeah. Like I maybe don't mind if I jump in first.
Sure, Andrew. Go ahead.
Please.
I'm managing the team in Singapore, and one of my scope of work is also managing HR. And the way I look at it is, be it your manager, your senior leader, or your HR, you will have some perspective of how you want to be managed, and what you're looking for is definitely fair treatment. For example,
Right.
good accountable leadership. And I think if you have that perspective, then you should also try to adopt, walk the talk, practice that, with your team. And to answer the question, right, first of all, it's extremely important. And something that I can throw out there for, managers or HR leaders in the audience, there's probably textbooks out there, but just quick surface level, I think candidate experience and onboarding is extremely important.
Right.
When you talk about, this study, how to provide a good employee experience, that employee experience, if you think about it, actually starts from before they join your company. When they first hear about your company, know about your company, interact with your company, that's when that experience starts. So start on the right note even before day one, and on day one, allow these new members to understand expectations so that they can flourish, they can ideally become advocates for your organization. And this part about being advocates for your organization, right, is how you reverse that
Right.
resignation tsunami.
Right.
Yeah, and that's I quickly talk about one more point, I guess.
Sure.
Fair leadership, which is to treat your members how you might wish to be treated. That's something I spoke about. If you expect your members to take a pay cut, and this was very widely publicized last year, right, during pandemic, you should too. And if you expect your members to work in office this year, like as things start to open up, then you should too. So a flip side example is if I'm a manager and I make an announcement, hey everyone, you guys have been working from home for more than a year. We have an office sitting there. I want everyone to go back now, 4 times a week. Okay, you can work one day from home. But then the manager himself, he's still working from home.
Yeah.
So this is an example of not fair leadership, I feel, and we should
Right.
avoid this.
You have to walk the talk.
Yeah, it goes back to the employee experience. Yeah.
I mean, Christine, you're from the hospitality sector, and this sector is renowned for great employee experience. Would you be able to share some best practices in some of the organizations you've served?
Sure. So you see, for what we talk about the employee experience before they apply for that job, someone must feel that this is a company that I want to put forth my data in. So that is step number one. Why so many organizations, why choose me? And so that is the time where the hiring manager or the organization should not have the thinking of I am now is an employee market.
Right.
No, the employer market. Sorry, that's it's now the employer market. So people will come after me. So that is a very wrong thing. I can apply how many jobs that I want, but when I get in, it's not what I see or what I hear. It's not tally. People will start throwing towel, and the cost of replacing someone is so costly. And we have not talked about the loss of revenue that this someone that you hope that they can bring in. So that is one thing that I feel is really not hospitality only, but in fact all the industry, we will need to be able to give ourselves a answer. Why do we hire this someone at the first place? Why are we bringing them in? If we are bringing them in, we want to make them successful. I think this is the most important thing for us from the company or the HR point of view. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Stephen, do you have any thoughts on creating an exceptional employee experience?
Okay, I mean, to look it in a holistic manner, I think first of all, let's revisit the questions you asked earlier, right? And then they put it in perspective. What causes the incoming or the pending exodus, right? The Great Resignation. What causes it? So if you can broadly look at it, I think it can be categorized into 4 areas. Yeah, one is basically burnout. Yeah, burnout issue. All right, various due to blurring of personal time and professional time. Yeah, because when you work at home, in some cases, some bosses will expect 24/7. Right, and it's not uncommon. Yeah. And of course, given the fact that people have personal lives, families, parents, maybe aged parents and so forth, or even siblings that are, together, right? That can cause so-called, frustrations at home, for example, right? And other various issues that comes along. Now, secondly, is basically dissatisfaction with work or even lack of trust or they feel unfairness, which is where Andrew just spoke about, right? And I think managers, leaders got to walk the talk, right? And that's quite critical and has to be transparent as well. All right, we need to build trust. We need to engage the staff to make sure that they participate and we don't make this what they call disruptive decision without enrolling them, in the process. Third is basically about personal safety. Some people may want to consider leaving because of personal safety issue. People in the front lines, right? Fear of being impacted by the virus, for example, fear of the family members, especially when you have situation like that, like now with the Delta variant, the Mu variant, and we don't know still how many more variants is coming, especially the front line. I think it's quite critical, right? I think we are in a way privileged and have a comfort feel that we are not in the front line for that matter, right? We can work from a comfort of home, which is great. But people in the front line, there's always fear at home, and you can imagine just go and visit a hospital for one. You can imagine, and 2 nights ago I had to go to hospital because of my son some emergency, and then I walk through. Wow, I see so many of them work through the shift, and you can imagine they are all the frontliners, the doctors, the nurses, and so forth. Now, fourth is actually you're talking about personal aspiration. Personal aspiration, to me, I think those people can basically, even good times, normal times, people will leave. This is something that we cannot stop, right? Because of personal growth, personal aspiration, going for higher salary, better job, or newer pastures, and so forth, right? Now, having said that, this is where we talked about earlier about 15%, which is where it brings down to us basically where's the other 35% coming in. So we obviously have to fall into number one, personal safety. 2 is basically dissatisfaction or unfairness, or 3rd is basically burnout. So these are the 3 areas where I think management, all right, HR would certainly need to look into it to how to address that. Because the important thing is that we need to know the root cause. If one management knows the root cause, then it's probably easy to manage and resolve it. And of course, there are various activities, for example, even simple activities like what Andrew was talking about, to make sure that, hey, the needs of every individual is taken care. Leaders must walk the talk, all right? Other than, of course, being transparent, trustworthy, enrolling them for activity, and other than engaging them in some CSR activity, raising fund, charity, go old folks home, right? Together, because it helps the team bond together. Because when you're work, you're always focused on work, and there's always a lot of angst, tension. How then do you release the tension and actually make good among the team members, right? It's only doing something of a common cause outside work. In the past, you could have games, activities, but now it's so restricted, right? So how else can you manage, right? The other is probably more to, if you need to drill down, it's more about employees' engagement, right? So I leave it at a later topic to discuss more, but basically my thought is that you have to drill on the root cause, then it's easier to resolve the problem. All right, back to you.
Thank you, Stephen. Now, Christine, this question is for you. From a perspective of a HR personnel, how are you able to spot the signs when an employee is showing signs of burnout? How do you nip the problem in the bud before it even happens?
Well, I think normally we will find out from they are not enthused about all the company's engagement. They have a lot of complaints about negative vibes. You can just feel it, as you make a cup of coffee at the pantry, you will feel them that they are not happy about certain thing. And even some, but I think one very important thing to sense it is that the department have a lot of or more than extra resignation case in that particular department. And I also want to urge that if its organization do not have an exit interview practice, please have that. So that will nip the problem. At least that why is it people from that particular team or that particular division wanting to leave their job. It can be a leadership thing. It can be overwork thing. It can be, too manual that the younger generation that you're bringing in thinking that these are really not necessary. It can replace by technology. So these are the items that we can sense it. It is not the resignation. How are we going to nip it? Not so, but it's actually the whole thing. If one move and then they can actually pull all their whole team along, because we support each other idea, because we are not happy there. So this is how the number will grow from 20 to 30, 30 to 50. And this is how it started.
Thank you for your insights, Christine. Now, Andrew, you've been in the startup scene for quite a bit, right? And from my perception of working in a startup, I would imagine myself doing a lot of roles, multiple roles, right? And certainly that would kind of create some form of burnout at some point of the other. So for someone who is working in a startup, could be a fresh graduate, could be a mid-career switcher, how do you think you would advise them? Or rather, how would you manage a startup so that employees within a startup wouldn't feel as burnt out as what we perceive to be?
You're very spot on there. Startup typical work environments, work cultures suggest that double hatting, triple hatting, getting things done, all because startups by nature they have more limited resources, right? So this is applicable in that type of work environment. But let's look at it from the employer's point of view, the founder, the startup management team. First of all, they need to communicate this clearly, and this could be where employer branding comes in. A startup has a lot of things to sell, right? A fun work culture, the stereotype is there's a ping pong table in the office, you can wear t-shirts to work. When you communicate this, right? Why? Because you want to attract talents to join your fun team. But at the same time, you must communicate practical information like this job description, the roles, the responsibilities is more flexible, more fluid than what you're used to before. Okay, that's something to look out for employers. But moving on to the job seeker, the talent's perspective, I think it's important that we today note interview process is a two-way street. Maybe it wasn't before, but now it's a two-way street. And if you as a candidate, if you don't find out information that's important for you to understand the role, then you're going to lose out, right? If you just sit there and answer questions and by a stroke of luck you get the role, but come day one, it's not what you expect. To be blunt, whose fault was it? You had the chance right in front of the hiring manager, in front of the founder, probably to ask, what's it going to be like working here? What's a day in the life of a product manager? You had a chance to ask that. If you don't ask that, I think you are missing out a great information gathering opportunity.
Interesting, Andrew. Is it even possible for a candidate who to interview someone from a company even before getting the job? Is there such a process to do so? And what's your take on that?
Yes. So very textbook wise, we call it like informational interview. So you gather information and just anecdotally, it's not uncommon these days. First of all, with the rise of professional networking sites, LinkedIn or Wantedly, you can actually search and see who works at a company. Some of them you may know, or it might be a second or third connection, and you can network your way to find out information there. So yes, you can and you should. And besides the professional networking approach that I suggested, there's obviously reviews online. Now there's reviews platform for everything, right? From food to shopping, and then obviously to companies as well. So that's another way to gather insights about a company. There are companies that very deliberately, and I would encourage that, they focus on employer branding. So whatever is online, whatever information is online about them is informational, more often than not positive. But there are other companies that may not really focus on this employer branding piece, of which company reviews are part of. And if you were to go to Glassdoor, for example, and you can see, some very honest employee reviews about the company. Usually it's employees that left, and sometimes they will be brutally honest. This is the reason why I left. I wouldn't encourage you to join the company. But there are also good reviews for sure. Yeah.
Right. I've always wondered, does HR actually physically look into Glassdoor reviews? What's your take on that? Is it something that, HR, do you take it seriously, or is it just, It's just somebody who left and
to hear
disgruntled.
from Stephen and Christine.
Or Steve, yeah, Stephen and
Quick one,
Christine.
I think yes.
Mm.
I think yes, especially if you are in maybe a startup tech or very large organization space.
Right.
There's more focus and emphasis there. Yeah,
Mm.
but I think it's important.
Christine?
Now, maybe I can just address that. I think if you are referring to whether companies are proactive or reactive towards any feedback that happens, right? I think naturally, in some ways, it very much depends on the management, right? Obviously, if you feel that a person left and without due to certain angst and frustration over management, obviously the management have to reflect and think over, because you don't want to have a similar situation happening again, right? And also you want to make sure that the persons also live in a good note, and also what they call has this continual engagement or relationship with the company. Because the moment the person walks the door in a very foul mode or frustrated mode, likelihood that he'll go out and badmouth about a company. So I think it's critical for company sometimes to reflect when certain things are put in place. Yes, also to think through and see, hey, you go through these stages of growth, perhaps it's been too hard on the start. What else do you do? For me, even way back when I was a country head back in Malaysia, I'm pretty so-called, try to proact towards a situation, but sometimes a bit difficult because due to work stress and so forth. But when certain things happens, yes, when I know that one or two staff leave, yes, I will, immediately organize gathering, have a food together, dinner and so forth, right? To just making sure that, and then to be less what they call pushy on the staff on certain things, on numbers and so forth, knowing that if you keep on pushing as a management, more will leave. All right, so I think but again, like I said, that's a bit reactive, but obviously way back then I didn't have a HR lady to help me. Just like Andrew, I was a country head, I was the HR, I was the operation as well, manning a 40 head count
we call
size,
it one
right?
leg kicking.
And this is where, like I said, of course I have administrative lady to help, and of course I keep close team members who are in touch with the pulse, right? My eyes and the ears to know what goes on the ground. So I'll based on this information, I'll proact towards it. Now, of course, having said that, I think companies, what obviously going through this process can learn a lot of things from this engagement, right? Knowing that, hey, if staff are going to leave, hey, what do you need to do next? I think important is to gather the managers to make sure that, hey, please stay close to your team. That's rule number one. Rule number two, make sure you have lunch with them. Even if you cannot have lunch, well, maybe order lunch and send it to their home once a month or so. At least you have a lunch hour together. Don't talk about work. Maybe just talk about what they've been doing, what keeps them busy, what's the hobby, how's the family, and so forth. And I think that'll be something so-called useful to have. Now and then I do see some of my ex-colleagues from IBM days. Of course, they're in different companies now. Yes, they do conduct some of these festival sessions, lunch sessions, and they actually take a picture and put it on LinkedIn. I say, wow, that's great.
Nice.
And I thought that is a good practice because it creates camaraderie, it creates bonding as well. While we can't be physically connected or having meals together, but at least it create the closest among everyone, and then to basically the bonding is there in some way, right? Well, even it's virtually, but at least the closest is there. There are times they don't always have to talk about work, but hey, talk about what has been keeping you busy. Mark, how's your Bitcoin status? And Andrew, how's your CSR activity at the William Hearts? Something like that, right? As you go along, which I think is critical. So I think for managers, if you are department head and division head, whatnot, I think it's encourage your managers stay close to your team, stay close to them, knows their pulse, understand their issues and problems they have. If they don't know the pulse and so forth, then I think danger will happen. And I would also vouch that I think one should not wait until the person tender a resignation or even to basically take the pulse, right? I think pulse has to measure every month, not until year end. Christine, do you agree or not?
Every month is too much work. I totally agree.
Yeah, today, which is where I think I hear you. Of course, if you do it manually and so forth, I think it's a lot of work. But today there are apps and tools that can support.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
Right.
that can be done, but I think I totally agree with what you guys mentioned. But for the the social media site where the employee share the positive or negative, I think for me, from the HR point of view, I take it seriously, because that is I have a few times that I seen a case that repeatedly sharing the same incident, which is I roughly know who is the one put it up
Right.
there, and then we are able to nip the issue, and then to send the leader for a coaching session so that they are able to manage the team better. And that is where the attrition rate for the department also introduced, so that to make sure that, I mean, we need some end result to see, to make sure that the employee are well taken care of and the business will not be disrupted. So that is how, from there, we are able to help the team, and also to help the organization to see things and people retain. So this is what we did.
Interesting. We're now talking about HR technology here. And
Mm.
Christine, would you be able to share some examples of how HR technology or an app that can help to assist HR in supporting the mental being of staff?
Sure. I mean,
Some
they
case
are
examples.
more traditional ones, like the annual leave
Right.
claims. These are, it's very common in the market. But if it's organization still using this particular, I mean, still do it manually, I really urge that they can change it, because these are transactional process, and this really takes up a lot of the time. If you invest on this system, in long run, you can actually saving on the manpower over time, and at the same time human error. And this is also the start of when people or the employee are not receiving their claims on time, or the leave calculated wrongly.
Right.
That's what next. This company don't pay me on time. This company don't recognize the leave that I took. And what resulted to? They say this company is messy. I wanted to throw towel. So that can be small, but it can have big impact to the employee, who is just matter. But it's really their benefits. We really need to make sure that they're being taken care of. And for
Right.
technology wise, we also notice that they are young leaders in the market now. They can do the work very well. They know the technology. They are able to with good technical skills. But when it comes to managing people, they might be a little too overwhelming, because they probably need someone to take care of themselves. So that's where technologies can help through AI, by
Right.
reminding them. Yeah, that someone is the team members is actually a new parent, a young parent, that you just need to give them some airtime. If it's they completed, the technology can actually, oh, he have already completed his KPI for this week, and there's some windows that he can take a 4 hours off on Friday. So let them have the chance to enjoy it. The now giving money may not be the top priority. Giving them time is
Yeah.
really something that they appreciate, because they want
Right.
time, so that you don't disturb them. Not by giving them airtime and then you go and say, hey, can I have a meeting at 3, just 30 minutes of your time? That may not be the walk and talk that what we mentioned earlier. So this is something that we need to be mindful of. Yeah. And they will really comes a long way for the employee to stay, because they are thankful and they are grateful that the employer or my supervisor is taking care of my well-being. Yeah.
Interesting, Christine. We're talking about AI in relation to HR technology here.
Yep.
Is there such an app, that's already out in the market already, or being deployed by an actual company?
Oh yes, that there is organization that the
Right.
companies that able to use AI to interpret data, by
Right.
doing little pulse survey, getting the information. That's where I got to know someone actually running. Is a young parent, a new parent,
Okay.
and then what makes you happy today? Oh, I have a newborn this week. There,
Oh,
I have the
wow.
answer. And that's where, from this, I will load into the system, and then the system
Right.
will say, hey, remember someone is actually having a newborn, Let's give them some time. And these are the things
wow.
that is what is the newborn that a young a parent needs most is the night feeding time that they can sleep.
Yeah.
So if they can't sleep in the evening, give them the 4 hours of Friday to sleep, and so they can catch up their weekends. So these are the things that is not able to count, but it's really thankful at that period of time that we see that we can able to give it to them. Yeah.
Interesting. Stephen, any thoughts on that?
Okay. I thought maybe it's good to let Andrew share. Andrew has, I believe, has some interesting tool that the company use as a start before I share my part. Yeah? Andrew, please.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Andrew.
Stephen. Christine, I super like what you share, and I have some comparable experience or insights also. One tool, because Wanterly, we first of all we have our HQ is in Tokyo, and we have a sister company in Hong Kong, so we are remote, right? And in this
Right.
current climate, obviously a lot of people are also remote and working virtually, and that causes a shift in management a little bit. But even before this, we have been using a pulse checking tool. You know, if we ask employees to submit a report every week, every month, if we ask managers to review report every month, like you said, wow, every month is cannot. Your job becomes just doing report. You cannot do other job already.
Overwhelmed.
So that's where technology comes in very handy, and the tool we use is very mindful of that. That today our lives are extremely busy. There's so much that requires our attention on screen, right? So it's a very quick pulse checker that asks
Yeah.
you how are you feeling, and you just need to rate it from 1 to 5, and
Right.
with AI, with backend, with data, right? The manager or the HR can then be prompted to check in if the score is too low or if the score is too erratic,
Yes.
or if it's a 5 out of 5, then you can simply send a emoji like yay. So there's a bit of complication there.
Mm.
And what Quantly has done, being a HR tech company, we also want to not just focus on employer branding, which is that top of funnel. We want to have strong consideration for employee success, right? So talent management, talent engagement. So we have rolled out in Japan. It's not available in Singapore yet. Something
Right.
that allows integration with this kind of engagement tools, right? Integration into Slack. So that way, you don't need to use another tool because, wow, I think today we are using like 10 software at any single point of time. It's just overwhelming. You can put it all in one place. In this case, for Wantali, it's Slack, right? There's increased convenience, and then you can, as a result, increase adoption rate also. Because you could have the best tool, the smartest AI, but if no one use, then it's hard to measure that effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Mm.
adoption is also important. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
our view of technology. Yeah.
For the technology that you mentioned on Stacks, ours is more through the Microsoft 365
Mm,
where you're on Teams that you can actually connect it
yeah.
through the technology. That's where if you buy a 365, you are able to connect them with an apps, and then it will be on cloud base. So that will help in a sense that not having so many so many apps, or there's so many system to be purchased, which is really will scare the management of. But on applications, that will be likely more acceptable in a sense. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, maybe I will share my part as well. I think just to echo what Christine have shared, and also Andrew, right? I think Christine brought up a very interesting app that's actually cognizant and actually very able to look into the needs of individual to the survey, and that helps the HR to be able to identify the specific needs, interest, desire of the employees, which I think gave a very good so-called insight to the management, and also to really develop the what they call the personal so-called and looking at the well-being of the individual, which is I think is very powerful for the management as a tool. And of course, I think Andrew also addressed that part of the tool whereby you talk about mindfulness, checking the pulse, and also perhaps even maybe some reward incentive. Now, just to let everybody know, for those who are not familiar with this, there are a lot of such tools out in the market today. Yeah.
Yep.
Whether it's on the mobile app base and so forth. Yeah. Now, a lot of these tools typically be classified as employees engagement tool. If you Google, you'll find that there's some of these tools that's already in the market. Now, what does this tool use? Now, what are the things that we need to know is basically to change human behavior is a very difficult thing, yeah. And you can ask any HR or department head or bosses that we have sent staff for training whether they can change overnight after training. It's just impossible. All right. And of course, in the past, because I was involved much in this culture transformation program, employees engagement is a subset of that, right? When you talk about culture transformation, it may take about 18 months to about 3 years, right? When you talk about employees engagement, you're talking about changing behavior within a shorter period, 3 to 6 months time frame, which is actually much easier to done. For instance, that you're talking about how to get the survey, how to get the pulse of individual, how to get the so-called the concerns, the angst, or issues that are raised up without having to so-called reveal the person's name. It's actually through the app. To the app that can actually get people to kind of surface out if there's any concern, and then people who identify with that problem, they'll give a like. And this is where HR instantaneously on a monthly basis can detect where are the key problems. So they can just identify that there could be 20 issues, but they'll identify 3 main issues to address. And that can be very proactive without having to wait until the resignation comes to the door. Right? And that's so powerful. Secondly, is basically you talk about gamification, right? Today, there are similarly all these employment engagement tools, the better ones, has this gamification capability, whereby you can actually incentivize, right, behavior change, whether you're talking about sales team achieving result or having a team able to work together, or even, for instance, able to get the managers to have lunch with the staff. Remember, earlier part when it started, the discussion was talking about this, right? And this is where managers are also human beings. They also need rewards. You also need to give them gamifications and also badges as well. So what happens is that how do you change behavior? Sometimes it's difficult for a big boss or CEO to tell people to change. They can tell, but obviously it's not always good to use the stick, right? You must also use carrot, and also changes must come from within. And when people see people change, they will follow. Right? When you have a team of champions actually within the organization, you select them, let's say HR work with them, and then get them to start engaging the staff to have, for instance, lunch, right? And then what you need to do is basically get them to take a photo and then put on this app, and then everybody can see. Yeah, it can be just like a WhatsApp or Facebook kind of thing, right? Where everybody can see within the company. It's actually constrained within the company, where everybody can see that. And once the other managers see 2-3 other managers are doing, I tell you, they will change, because they also want to have badge, they also want recognition, they also want attention. Because if they are not behaving the same as what the rest, then they'll be seen as somebody who is actually not in a group, in a crowd, right? Because management can see as well. So this is an app that can app like this, incentivized through gamification, can make tremendous change in organization. So I encourage for companies who have not into this right now, leverage on tools like this, whether it's AI like what Christine or shared, or even Slack tools like what this Andrew has shared. But employees engagement tool out there are available. Leverage on it, all right, and try to maximize to improve your employees engagement. Don't have to wait until year end. Every month you can check the pulse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Once.
All right. Thank you, Stephen, for your insights. Now we're down to our last 10 minutes. And before we conclude, perhaps we'll have just one final question. And this is actually for our viewers, right, who may be thinking about quitting their jobs now. All right. What advice would each of you give to them?
Shall I
You're
go
thinking,
first?
oh, I'm not happy at my workplace anymore. I'm going to quit today because someone else, my friend, is quitting already. I'm going to give up. What advice would you give them?
As an employer, I always would like to get a heads up I think it's easy to understand why. And basically, by getting a heads up, I have the chance to empathize why this decision. I have a chance to do something about it, i.e., discuss the best scenario for the member. Stephen mentioned few reasons for possible abrupt resignation, right? If my member is going through difficulties, I want to be able to help. If leaving is the best outcome, I want to give my blessings, right? So if you have a relationship with your employer, the advice here is to sound him or her out first, and perhaps by expressing your position, there could be options. And even if you have your heart set on departing, it will be great to show this, let's call it respect, right? And communicate this decision making and the decision making process before just sending out the resignation letter out of the blue. Because who knows, you might need a referral letter or reference check in the future. So this is a practical piece. In conclusion, I want to say that there shouldn't be any taboo in quitting your job. As a pardon my self-proclamation, as a responsible career coach and mentor, I do think that you should have the plans and options laid out before you quit. It doesn't have to be plans in terms of a ready offer so that you can immediately jump into another job. It doesn't have to be a professional related plan, but you should have a plan. It could well be, I want to take an undisturbed 3 months recharge break. It can be that kind of plan. But I think that before you quit your job, which is not a taboo, you should have a plan on what you're going to do. And if that is doing nothing at all for 3 months, so be it. But you should know what you're going to do.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you, Andrew. And it looks like we've come to the end of our show. Time flies when you're always in great company. Now, as always, before we close, I would like to share these takeaways from our conversation today. I'm hearing that recognition and transparency is important because employees want to be trusted. They want employers who recognize that managing a Zoom economy is different from the past, right? And that leaders need to have a different set of skills and training to manage the staff better. I'm also hearing from Andrew that employees want fair treatment and management as well, who is personally vested in their interests. Have lunch with them, find out how's their Bitcoin doing. They want to be respected by leaders who get that remote work is not an invitation for micromanagement, but a chance for them to get to build a better rapport with staff. I'm also hearing that CSR is important as part of the employee experience because I would believe that most people, especially millennials, want to work for companies that they can be proud of. And, then that the company is involved in some kind of a community work and takes a stand for things that they believe matter. And also for companies who may not have such systems already in place, you might want to consider checking out an AI system or some kind of a pulse tracking / gamification tool to manage the well-being of staff. So maybe that's something that can be considered. And finally, for those of you who are thinking of throwing the towel tomorrow, give your management, give your RO, your reporting officer, a chance to hear you out, right? Before calling it quits, right? Weigh out the options, have a plan, right? Before deciding that resignation is the way to go. All right, Stephen, Andrew, and Christine, once again, thank you for joining us on the show today. And to everyone watching back home, we hope you enjoyed yourself as well and learned a lot from our guests. I certainly learned so much from them. And we want to thank all of you for tuning in. And if you have some thoughts, or maybe if there's something that you'd like to share, please leave us a comment below. And we look forward to hearing from you. Until then, this is Mark Wong for Career Banter. I want all of you to stay safe, stay positive, don't quit yet. Why? Because success is just around the corner. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.